Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a book unhaul. I do these every 2 months. I accumulate all of the books that I maybe read in the last 2 months and decided that I no longer want to keep, or if for some other reason something shows up on my shelves downstairs where all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I don't want that anymore, randomly, out of the blue. I will also include it in this unhaul. So a lot of these books probably look familiar if you've been watching my monthly reading wrap-ups, but for those of you that haven't, I'm going to go over like a brief reason for why I'm unhauling them, and then that'll be it. So let's get into the stack. First up, we have The Lost Years by Mary Higgins Clark. This is actually a duplicate copy. I own the little small white paperback of it, and then I own this one, and for the longest time didn't realize that I had 2 copies. I DNF'd this book actually a couple months ago, unhauled that original copy, picked this one up for this month's Mary Higgins Clark, and realized this is a duplicate as I was reading the description. So yeah, obviously don't need that. Didn't even keep the first one when I DNF'd it. Then after that we have The Three Musketeers. I listened to this on audiobook a month or 2 ago, I forget which, and just really didn't actually end up enjoying this at all. I'm never going to read it again. I didn't like these characters, I didn't like the storyline, so that is why we are unhauling this one. Next we have Torn, and wow, I hated this book so much. It's a gorgeous cover, and I bought it because I loved the cover, and then I started to read it, and the content was so disturbing and gross and icky, and that's why we're getting rid of this. This is a age gap romance, but more than that, it's actually like her pseudo-uncle that grew up with her, raised her as a kid, and now that she is 18 or turning 18, they start to realize they might have feelings for each other. That in and of itself is like maybe pushing the boundary a little bit too much, but then the author decided to include flashback scenes of him looking at her as a child and then flash forward to them in a romantic scene. And it's like, no, this is disgusting. I can't do this at all. So DNF that. So that is why we're getting rid of that. I have to be really careful where I decide to put that. I don't know if I want to put that in a little free library or not, because I really don't want somebody of a certain age group to pick that up. So yeah, might have to. I don't know what we'll do with that one yet. Then we have The Perfect Marriage. This was another DNF. This is supposed to be like a domestic thriller, and it was extremely boring, and I didn't understand where the thrilling part was supposed to come in. I also just didn't like the characters. They were kind of applauding the fact that their perfect marriage was born out of both of them cheating on their respective spouses, so didn't really like that either, and yeah, so we DNF'd that one. Another DNF, we had The Secrets We Kept. This is a historical fiction that also had a pretty heavy plot line of infidelity, which was weird that I got 2 in a row. I read these in the same reading vlog, DNF'd in the same reading vlog. This one was also incredibly boring, and I didn't care about the history plotline that they were trying to portray in here. It was very confusingly written. Like, the timelines were very muddled, and so were the POV shifts, so that's why we DNF'd that. Finally, one that we didn't DNF, we have Sleep Like Death. I'll be honest, I should have DNF'd this one. This was a 1-star read. I actually, the more I think about this book, the more I hate it. It just wasn't good. It's supposed to be a Sleeping Beauty. No. Which retelling is this supposed to be? So it's originally a Snow White retelling, but it starts pulling in different things from other fairy tales too, which is why I can never remember which one it's supposed to be. Although, I suppose the cover should give it away. Anyway, I don't like that. I didn't like the characters in here. It was so just, I said painfully YA in my reading vlog, and I will stick by that. Painfully YA. Steals ideas from other books. Howl's Moving Castle very obviously steals from that, and it's just, I just don't know how it got past a publisher and they went, yeah, this makes total sense. This is completely original. Let's put it out there. So yeah, that was a 1-star read. Honestly, just maybe hate read that one. Then we have an entire series here that I'm not going to pick up because my wrist is not going to appreciate that, with the Pretty Little Liars series. I did read this first book in a reading vlog just to see whether or not I would still appreciate this story before trying to jump into the rest of these books. I didn't want to DNF the book right off the bat because I figured then that meant immediately DNFing the rest of the series. I needed a whole book to sort of make that decision. And while this is definitely fun for a younger audience, and it's very just, you know, quintessential high school drama, it's not what I'm looking for in my books anymore at this stage of my life, and I can appreciate that some people my age still love reading this. I'm very hit or miss on my YA anymore. I can enjoy it. Normally it's YA fantasy that I enjoy, This just kind of gave Mean Girls, and they were a little snobby, and like, I just didn't like them. I didn't like them that much, so I decided to get rid of this, which meant I am unhauling the entirety of the series that I owned. I think I owned like 12 out of the 16 books or something like that. I almost owned the entire series, so yeah. Definitely should have read that at a time in my life when I would have appreciated it more, which is when I bought them, and then I just, you know, life got in the way, never ended up getting through them, so is what it is. Okay, my last little stack here, we have another DNF. This is The Marsh King's Daughter. This is a thriller that, once again, I was very bored reading, and if I am bored reading my thrillers, after a certain point, I automatically put them down because that is not what's supposed to be happening reading a thriller book. So this one is about a woman whose father abducted her mother, kept her in captivity in the marsh. She was a byproduct of this. Father eventually gets captured and taken to prison, and then as she's an adult, he escapes, and she has to start like tracking him down, but her husband also didn't know that she had this past. You know, a really cool premise that should be like edge of your seat, intriguing and thrilling, and I didn't get any of that. I didn't get any of that, and I also just didn't like the way that she viewed a lot of the people in her life, including her mother. It just, yeah, there was a lot going on that I wasn't really appreciative of with that one. Then we have Sharp Objects. I did actually finish this. I think I gave it like a 2.5, 3-star rating, but I'm never going to read this again. The way that the author depicted women as a female too, which threw me for a loop, is just really shocking. Like, every female in this book is hypersexualized, even the extremely young ones, and I think she was doing it for a purpose and trying to drive home the sort of downside or negative consequences that can happen in small towns where so much pressure is placed on young women to grow up too quickly, but she overdid it, in my opinion. It was too much, and sometimes I just get really frustrated when thrillers have the over-sexualization of young women in it just because they think that that's a great trauma for them to have as a backstory, and it's just like, there is more to it, more to people's personalities, more to traumatized adult women than just being sexualized as young girls. Like, we can have more depth than that, and that gets frustrating that it's always reduced to that, at least in my opinion. Then we have The Book of Mirrors. I did finish this one as well. I gave it 3 stars. Wasn't a bad thriller. I just don't think that I'm ever going to actually reach for it again. This isn't one that I would read because it kept me on the edge of my seat and I wanted that feeling back again. And I think I'd actually be able to remember the way that this story worked out. Normally for my thrillers, if I give them a couple years, I forget what the twist and everything is, and I can go back in with kind of fresh eyes. This one is pretty straightforward, so I don't think I'd have that experience if I read it again. Then we have Give Me Your Hand. I read this in the same reading vlog as Sharp Objects. I DNF'd this one for the reasons that I was on the fence about Sharp Objects. This is another one that decides we're going to hypersexualize young women, and then all of a sudden one of the characters as an adult has some issues and starts doing illegal things, and it's like, again, really, like, I didn't like it. I also just didn't like the writing style in this, so got rid of that one. Another DNF, we have The Wolf at the Door. This is a sci-fi book with like collections of short stories and poetry. I would never have bought this on my own. This was in like a mystery box that me and my boyfriend bought at Second and Charles, and I figured I'd at least give it a try since it was in the box. But yeah, not my thing. Not my thing at all. Didn't like it, you know. So I feel a little bad DNFing it because I would know I would never have normally picked it up, but I'm also not going to put myself through reading something that I'm really not enjoying. Then we Bait on the Hook. I did also finish this one. This was like a 2.5-star read. This is a very old mystery book, and you can definitely tell while reading through it, it's a little bit absurdist with the way that the plot goes and the way that this mystery unravels itself, but it was kind of fun still to read. Like, I was slightly invested. I don't know, slightly invested, but I still will never read it again, so that's why we're unhauling that one. And then lastly, we have the Power Play by Chelsea Curto. This is part of the DC Star series. I haven't read this. I got this on Amazon because it was one of the only places that I could find the indie copy before it sold out for the new trad covers, and there was like damage on the spine. I requested a refund or like so that I could get a different version of it without damage, and they actually didn't want me to send it back, which is very weird. So I figure I'll put this in a little free library. Somebody that doesn't necessarily care about the damage on the spine is probably going to love it. Like, it's not terrible damage by any means. I'm just super picky about my books. So if I damage them, it's one thing. If I get them damaged when I pay for a new book, that's not happening. So yeah, that's why we're getting rid of this one. This is a hockey romance that I've heard incredible things about, and I am really excited to read the series, just with an edition that doesn't have any damage to it. So those are all of the books that I'm unhauling after the last 2 months. I think it's a decent stack. I've definitely had months with more in it, but I'm pretty happy with this, and it's kind of nice to see some progress through books that I've had on my TBR for a really long time, even if it means that they're no longer staying on my shelves. Somebody else can hopefully enjoy them. So thank you so much for watching till this point in the video. If you've made it this far, I hope to see you guys in another video very soon. Bye.